Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Happiness Journey with Dr. Dan podcast, where every journey is worth living. My name is Dr. Dan, and I'm your host for today's episode. I am a cognitive behavior psychotherapist specializing in anger management issues, both court-appointed and private, marriage counseling using the EFT method, dissociative disorders, narcissistic personality disorders, depression, anxiety, dream analysis, and also provide life, business, and retirement coaching support. I provide individual one-on-one session and also do group settings. If you need any assistance, reach out to DMV Therapy and Coaching Services at 301-325-1550, and our website can be found at lifecoachdanamzlag.com. Today, I'm very, very excited to have, for our first episode of Season 7, a very special guest, Galla from the Mensgroup. And just like every of my past episodes, I will leave it up to the guests to properly introduce themselves, as no one can do a better job. Sean, the floor is yours.
Oh, that's great, Dr. Dan. I'm excited to be here. I think that what you're doing is fantastic, and lots of people need help with those topics you help them with. And I've seen that firsthand. So yeah, I run men's groups. I've been doing it for 15 years now. Started out just living in another country. I lived in Mexico for a while, felt a little lonely, didn't have anybody to talk to about, my relationship challenges and stuff going on in my life. And so I threw my friends into a Facebook group, and it turns out the men really needed it. And they also felt like they didn't have anybody to talk to about personal growth matters. So the women sort of fell out of it, and then it became a men's group. And then, here we are. That turned into another business that I ended up selling, and then I launched mensgroup.com. And so we help guys all over the world find community and build friendships, and most importantly, have a place to talk about the everyday nuts and bolts guy stuff that's on their mind. It matters like, how can I set better boundaries with people? How can I stop fighting my relationship? How can I communicate my feelings better? How do I get over a porn addiction? Really common guy things. And so we run these online men's groups to give guys an opportunity to talk about those things and hear how other guys have overcome them.
Beautiful. Well, then your service is definitely very needed, because the thing is, what I've noticed as well, Sean, is that in many relationships, the man is supposed to be the breadwinner or the ego, to be the kind of like the foundation. But yet we see that a lot of them do not address issues, either mental illness or whatever it is. So how do you entice the group or the men to be able to get the help that they need if they're actually struggling with more than just setting boundaries or relationship issues?
Yeah, definitely. We do encourage them to go and see professional help if they're dealing with significant issues. We're big fans of therapy. I'm a big fan of therapy, working with therapists like you. But basically, guys who come to men's group are typically at a point where they've looked around and realized, whoa, hey, I've been investing too much in my work. I've been investing a lot in my family, and I've let my social circle, my friends kind of fade away. And so they self-select something like this. So they're keen to get into conversations. They're keen to talk about meaningful things. They're excited to have an opportunity to talk about what's on their mind. They're often very hesitant or scared because they've never done anything like this before. But when they come in, what we do is we set the tone. We want to make people feel as comfortable as possible by sharing vulnerable things ourselves and having our group leaders do the same. And we'll always go to existing group members first that have, issues they want to discuss. So that way a man can observe, oh, wow, this guy shared something sensitive and he wasn't rejected or called gay or whatever, and, or a pussy or whatever. And these guys were supportive and encouraging. Oh, wow. But by observing other guys not being judged, other guys then start to feel safe. That's the number one way that we do it. Yeah. A lot of women and a lot of people in general think that their man doesn't know how to open up. Well, he can. He just needs to be in the right environment where he feels safe to do so.
And also not judged.
Not judged. Yeah.
Guys feel judged about their feeling, especially the primary emotions. And because of that, they just do not know how to process it and kind of like be more vulnerable. And that's the biggest issue that I've seen in many of the patients that I've been dealing with. And this is one of the most common problem that we see in relationship. So what are the most common issue in men's group that you have seen, and what kind of solution have you suggested for them to be able to overcome this problem?
Yeah, great question, Dr. Dan. Yeah, so the big ones we see are guys recovering from a breakup or a divorce or an infidelity, guys that are learning to manage their anger, guys that want to learn how to set better boundaries, not be a nice guy anymore. Um, Porn addiction is one that gets talked about all the time, surprisingly. Family issues, especially with parents or kids. Yeah, but just general emotional intelligence, guys wanting to be able to communicate better. Those are the big ones. And we, as an organization, like myself, if I'm leading groups or the therapists we are leading groups, we actually don't give advice. We actually let the other guys do that. So really what happens is a guy just says, hey, this is what I'm facing. I've been fighting with my wife again, or my wife just had a couple miscarriages and I don't know how to support her, or I'm having this conflict at work. What do you guys think? And then the other guys share what they think. And always in a group of 6 to 8 to 10 guys, there's 2 or 3 that have been through the exact same thing or are going through something similar. And so just through hearing how the guys think about it, how they are approaching it in healthy ways, guys absorb how they can, handle their situation better. To that, which then leads to less suffering and more happiness, for them.
Interesting strategy. And
Yeah.
when it comes to, let's say, whatever is, yeah, you just shared the most common. What were the most uncommon issues that you have seen? Because like I said, obviously in a group of 8 or 10 men, yeah, you have 10 different challenges, but we're talking about thousands of different challenges that people face, and especially our listeners here who do not know about your group, and I hope that they will join. What other things have you heard that you said, whoa, that's new?
Yeah, I mean, every day there's something new, right? There are no new problems, but there's unique variables in people's challenges, right? Like everybody has to grieve or experience a loss at some point, right? But like last week on my personal men's group, one of the guys was talking about how he used to share a dog with his ex-girlfriend, and the ex-girlfriend no longer wants to share the dog, and so he's trying to figure out if he's experiencing he's beginning to grieve the loss of this friend of his, this dog. So like that's a unique example that we haven't seen a ton of. And there's all sorts of examples like that. I mean, we've had guys calling you from jail. We've had guys calling in, that long distance truckers calling in and talking about the issues that they face with their work and their career and the hours that they face. There's no shortage of unique examples, but they all do typically fall under interpersonal or like trying to be better man themselves in some way or trying to save a relationship of some kind,
So how do you set boundaries in your group? Because obviously, as you said, no one can, I mean, the moderator cannot give advice. They let the other group members to do so. But since not a lot of people will experience the exact same problem, how do you do not want to misguide anyone in the group. So what do you do to be able to say, well, that's not applicable. So what do we do this or do that? So how do you know how to manage all this?
Yeah, I mean, we tell the guys that you need to take any feedback you get with a grain of salt, and you need to be discerning about what you take on and what you don't. That being said, our facilitators are there to ensure that everybody gets value, and that the conversations flow smoothly, and that nobody rambles. And part of that is sometimes if a guy is offering feedback from a place of anger or emotions or something, that he shares something that is generally understood to be unhealthy perspective, then we typically will ask him to stop and move on to somebody else. We also ask people to speak in I statements typically. So we ask them to share their experience instead of telling people what to do. So instead of saying, you should do this, you should do that, you should do that, it's here's what I did, here's what I learned, here's what happened to me. And we found that through that, and through this culture that we've put into place years ago, we don't have to step in a lot. There's like a couple hot button topics. Like there's a lot of guys that are angry towards women because they have been cheated on or dragged through the courts and stuff. So occasionally you have to step in there and go, no, man, women are not the problem. You were in an unfortunate relationship, this and that. And, like politics and news and world events seems to come up occasionally, and we have to step in and go, this isn't the place for that, opinion on that stuff. But in general, we don't actually see a lot of bad advice because guys are just sharing their experience.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And when it comes to where do you see the men's group going? I mean, you said that you get people from all around the world. So everything is done virtually, obviously, because or else that will not
Yep.
be possible.
Yep.
But when it comes to adding more people into the group with different issues that they're facing, how do you manage that? I mean, it's like, do you promote the group to different other platform on Facebook or Instagram, or do you go to different like Alcoholic Anonymous or different things like that to be able to have them to say, hey, now we deal only with men and not just with women?
Yeah. So we basically, there's a couple questions in there. I mean, my goal with Mensgroup is just to help as many men as possible find a safe place to talk about whatever's on their mind. In my household growing up, my mom and dad were very loving. They gave me everything I could ever want, but my dad lacked an emotional toolkit and he lacked good friends. And so, looking back, I can't help but think that my household would have been a lot happier. My upbringing would have been a lot happier had he had something like this.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. And so that's what my mission is, to help as many guys like that. Now, right now we're at, we have 15,000 guys in our community, but it could be, if it's 100,000 or a million, I don't really care. I'm just going to try to keep helping as many guys as possible. We're very new. Mensgroup.com is only 2 years old, so I'm excited for the numbers we're at. And how we go about finding guys is just mostly making sure we show up in places where guys hang out. So most of our crowd is not the Alcoholics Anonymous or people that are really struggling with like serious mental issue or emotional health issues. Typically, it's like your average guy. We have a lot of professionals, accountants, lawyers, doctors, those kinds of things. But even construction workers, teachers, just your average guy who's realized that he's going through a new challenge, and he just doesn't have anybody to talk to about it. And so where do those guys go look for information? They go and look on Google. They go and look on YouTube. And so those are places where we show up. We've also got a lot of referrals from counselors recently, therapists who have male clients, and they say, you know what, something like this, like a men's group, would be good for you. Yeah. So that's how we show up. And then also doing some podcasts, just talking about what we do. People seem to find it interesting.
Well, that's, you definitely provide an amazing service to society.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, I really, when we first contacted, I said, wow, this is definitely a good topic for the podcast. Because like I have a variety of different guests, from TV producers to people who have gone very severe relationship, men and women. But it's, when it's very, very hard, because when they feel that they're alone and they do not know anyone to talk to beside their therapist or whatever it is, they still feel enclosed and isolated. And this isolation, as you know, we've been isolated for 18 months because of this pandemic. Now I see a lot of mental illness kind of like, come out of the woodwork. And people now realize, oh, damn, I didn't know I had that. They were kind of like trying to bury it, for it not to come out. But now they have no choice. They have to address it because they can be living in misery the way they do. So I think your men's group comes out at the exact right time. Talk about planning here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like 2 years, almost like it was almost the beginning of the pandemic at that point, come to think of it. So this is when a lot of people definitely need assistance and help and support. So I think, thank God that you're coming up with things like that could help the men's group. Now, are you thinking about getting the women involved? I mean, maybe a women's group or whatever, or you just focus primarily on this gender?
Yeah, well, I don't know as much about women as I know about men because I've been working with them for 15 years. Okay. And I'm still trying to figure out my own relationship, on a regular basis. That being said, though, a lot of people have asked me to start women's groups, and I've thought about it. My girlfriend right now, she's a nurse, but she's been running her own women's group, and so she's been exploring the idea. I would love to take what I've learned about community building and running groups and getting people to open up and create connection and apply that to a women's group, like find a female leader to like really, really run with that. But at this point in time, I'm fully, 60 hours a week in building men's group because it's working so well. So I don't want to diverge my attention yet.
Beautiful. Now, when it comes to, we spoke like briefly about the future of the men's group.
Yeah.
You want to go like international. You want to be able to get, you want to help as many people as possible, as many men as possible. That have you faced any major challenges throughout the journey of developing this men group to make you second guess about, is it really worth it, or is it something that you probably kind of try to question yourself about it?
Oh yeah, it's a great question, Dr. Dan. You ask good questions, man.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never been asked that question before, and I love the work that you're doing too, and that's why I was excited to be here, because I think more people need to be working with people like you. And I suggest anybody who's listening to work with somebody like Dr. Dan.
Thank you so much.
Men's group is one avenue. There's lots of healing tools that can be useful, like Dr. Dan. Sorry, I forgot the question. What was the question?
Yeah. So throughout this journey of developing or creating this men's
right. Yeah. What was the adversity I faced?
guess yourself to say, is it something that is really needed in our society, and what can I do to be able to make it the best that I can?
Yeah, man. I mean, every week I still feel that way, because I could be doing 100 other things and be making a lot more money and probably dealing with less hassles. Running a community is a low margin, high people, high admin business. There's a lot that goes into event organization, event planning, a lot of administrative stuff. So it's definitely challenged me to build such a people heavy and admin heavy organization. We're also dealing with a lot of guys that are coming in emotional states. They've just been cheated on, or they've been through conflict, or they've had somebody die or whatever. And so, sometimes that emotion can be directed at us, which, we try to do our best to be understanding about that. Most of the guys are cool and super easygoing, but there's a little bit of that behind the scenes. Yeah, and the community as a business model in particular is very challenging one to build, because it just takes a lot of energy in the beginning to get things rolling, to get life, to breathe life into a community. And then lastly, like, we're constantly getting thrown curveballs as far as new stuff we need to deal with. Like, guys were having beers on a meeting the other day, on a social meeting. Is that okay? Since we have some alcoholics in our group. We've had guys talk about committing suicide. We had our first case where a member actually committed suicide.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, 2 months ago. Now, we've been in business for two years, and we've had, we're currently have 15,000 people in our community. We probably had double that pass through it since the beginning. And it's like, I feel very fortunate that we haven't had that happen yet. And we've had more success stories of guys saying that they called a friend they met through Mensgroup instead of doing something like that. But yeah, we had a guy join, and unfortunately the group was very supportive. He only attended one meeting, and then he took his own life a week later. So there are quite a bit of challenges with this business model. And I think that's why nobody else is doing it.
Yes.
Like, if you look at the men's group space, there's nobody really doing it in an exciting, well-marketed kind of way, running it as a business. And I think it's because it's a difficult one. But for me, it's worth it, because this is the most meaningful thing I could be doing with my life.
Beautiful. And like I said, and I'll repeat it again for all the listeners out there, this is definitely a group that is needed, because I can see how many people are struggling. And
Thank you.
There's actually one last question that I wanted to ask. And
yeah, please. Yeah.
Very successful entrepreneurs, just like you, go through what we call the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
It's like, this is like a syndrome that people think, who am I for people to listen to me and to be able to hear my advice? But in your case, as you said, you're not giving any advice. You let the group take care of that, and everyone share their own input into the equation. So, but have you always said, who am I? I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist, to be able to create a group like that?
Yeah, definitely. And I still feel that from time to time when I'm on podcasts with somebody who's very well credentialed like you,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I still feel that way. But at the end of the day, I came by this honestly, right? Like, I was just starting a group to scratch my own itch. And then what ended up happening is, it turned out that I'm good at it. And I didn't want to be good at it. In between the last men's group business I started in mensgroup.com, I really hesitated because I was like, I want to do something easier. I want to do something, cooler, like an Instagram sports influencer or something, because when I go to a cocktail party or whatever, and I tell people I run men's groups, usually I think I'd be better off just saying I'm an accountant or something. Yeah. So yeah, for me, I learned through experience. Like the first men's group I ever ran was supposed to be a business mastermind. It was a bunch of entrepreneurs on a surf trip at my house in Mexico, and we sat in a circle at the end of the trip. And because we had such a good time, and the guys got to know each other because of how I kind of engineered the group throughout the weekend, like they started talking about personal stuff, and I was like, "Whoa, how did this happen?" You know. And then it kept happening like that, and so I after 3 or 4 trips, I was in a circle of 50 guys on a ski trip at some ski lodge. And I'm there in the middle. And these guys are all way more successful than me. Some of them are celebrities and athletes and these kinds of things. And I'm there in the middle leading this thing. So of course I'm feeling complete imposter syndrome. But now, I've been doing this for long enough where it's like 12 or 15 years where I feel it a little bit on a podcast like this. I'm like, who am I to be talking? But then I remember that just like our facilitation, I'm not here to actually teach anything. I'm just here to share what I observe guys are saying in groups. Like I'm sharing their wisdom, So imposter syndrome is something that a lot of guys talk about in our groups, though. Actually, that's another popular topic. So yeah,
Absolutely. But again,
yeah,
as a psychotherapist, it's what we call talk therapy. I
yeah,
let a lot of my patients talk more, so I
yeah,
listen. It's more reflective listening that I do a lot.
yeah.
I just bring up their point. So it's not really so different to what you do, but I'm just
Right.
having more of a clinical aspect of it. And this
Yes.
is more different. But overall, what you do is what any moderator, or any psychotherapist would do with their patient, to be able to listen carefully what the problem is, because a lot of people don't know how to listen.
Mm,
There's a lot, especially between couples, Sean,
yes, I
where the
imagine.
women or the men try to talk over each other, and the reason why they scream is because they raise their voice for the other one to listen.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So, and yeah, just tell them, look, tone it down. Just know that if you keep it low decibel, the other person will follow through, and they also will speak low decibel. It's just they will mirror the other person's behavior. That's what it is. So, but
Yeah.
overall, again, I'm gonna say, Sean, it certainly was, and it is a pleasure to have had met you and talk to you about this specific group. And I know that a lot of listeners out there would love to know. First of all, it's Mensgroup, MENS group.com. This is how
Yep.
to
Just,
find
yeah,
you.
mensgroup.com. You can go to the website, you can enter your email there, and then we'll send you access to a free men's group so you can try it out, or just our discussion community. If you want to see what kinds of things guys are talking about, you can just go in and join our community for free, see if it's a good fit. And Dan, you just touched on something at the end there that I think would be a good point to end on. And that is that, like, I'm using my unique gifts because of the household I grew up in, kind of an emotionally abusive household. I'm good at listening. I had to be to survive. So I didn't know how to fit into the world for a long time. Like I couldn't figure out how my soft skills, good at listening, good at getting people to open up. I'm likable because of that, how I could use that in the world. But I kept trying to explore and find it. And sure enough, as soon as the farther I went in my career and the more I used those skills and just accepted myself for who I am and what I'm actually good at, and like found something meaningful to match that, that's when things started to really succeed in my life career wise. So I just encourage people to continue to explore what their gifts are and to match that up with what they find meaningful in the world. And that seems to be the magic ticket for these kinds of things.
And I think that also when you are the most uncomfortable in a situation, this is the only way you can grow.
Yes.
They just like to stay in their little cocoon, not think outside the box, and they will never really grow as an individual. So I
Yeah.
think you, even though you question yourself about the group for the since you started it, you still push forward. And a lot of
Yes.
people don't know how to push forward. They think that maybe this is not meant to be. No, it is meant to be. You have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in your dreams, because if you don't believe in yourself, who will?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just little steps, it's like taking one little step, and it's more of an experimentation, is this going to work? Do I like this? Do I like this thing? I don't have to start with a group of 100 people and get up there. It's like when I started mensgroup.com, I thought this thing will be considered a success if I can sell 10 random people off the internet, and then all of a sudden, after a few months, we're at 50. And I was like, wow, this thing's really working. But if it didn't work, then I'd go back to the drawing board and try something else, to maybe try another kind of project or something. I even thought about going back to school as a counselor. I thought if Mensgroup didn't work, I'm going to go get my master's in counseling. So yeah, just taking those first steps, just exploring. And that's how you learn. That's how you figure out what works, what doesn't work. And usually the world actually rewards you, the universe or whatever you believe in. If you're religious, maybe God or something, like it seems to reward you when you do when you do follow that fear and lean into it,
Just
so
like the laws of attraction, thoughts
yeah.
become the thing that you think about. So a lot of
Yeah.
people fail to put belief and action in between the thoughts and things happen. So this is
Yeah.
when you read the book The Secret, or when you watch the movie, they didn't really emphasize, the author Rhonda Byrne didn't push too much on about the action and belief. They just said thought become things. Yeah, okay, well, I'm thinking about a Lamborghini in my garage. Where is it?
Yeah, exactly.
So
You got to get out of the house. You're not going to get a Lamborghini sitting on your couch.
exactly, that's not going to help.
Yeah.
But on that note, Sean, that is all the time that we have for today's podcast. I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy schedule to join us,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
that you healed from COVID. So again, thank you again for participating and inspiring our many listeners with your incredible story. And I
Yeah.
hope that you have all enjoyed today's episode. And I'm very, very excited about the many upcoming guests that we have scheduled for season 7 of the Happiness Journey podcast, filled with incredible stories, just like the one that you're listening to today. Now, here are some concluding words of wisdom. You are where you are because of your life decision. If you want better result, you must take better action. You will learn the lesson and you will see the blessings. You will not stop until all your goals are realized. And when you do search these goals, you will set a new and better goal. You will grow and grow and grow even more and accept full responsibility for the result in your life. You will always challenge yourself to become a better version of yourself every year, every month, every week, day, hour, minute to seconds. You stay committed, you stay determined, and you will achieve greatness. Nothing in life will ever come easy. Success isn't something that happens overnight, but more about being consistent action throughout the years or decades that you will see incredible changes. Be patient and be open-minded. Sky's the limit. My name is Dr. Dan Amzalag, and you may all keep pursuing your amazing journey in life.